Welcome to Sachs Realty's Tuesday Night Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. Each week, we deliver expert information enabling you to make better informed decisions while keeping more money in your pocket. If you're interested in real estate, this is your show. Foreclosures are increasing. In this video, we're going to talk about the top 10 states experiencing the most mortgage foreclosures and talk about why it's happening. We're also going to discuss how homeowners are still protected by federal funding despite the federal moratorium on foreclosures being lifted in July of 2021. And then finally, how economists are wrong when they say that Americans facing foreclosures, they're protected by the amount of equity that they have in their homes. Welcome to our Tuesday Night Podcast.
One of the worst things that can happen to someone is them losing their home. Their home is a safe haven, a place where they potentially raise their children. And the thought of them losing that, it's very, very scary and frightening.
You know, and this is one of the concerns that I have when people are buying houses today and they're using every penny that they have. Unfortunately, they're allowed to do so, right? So if they have good credit, decent credit, they meet the minimum criteria, they have 3.5% down. There really is no other checks and balance. They're making the money that says that they can afford the home, but really no one's looking at, well, what happens if there is a downturn? What happens if they lose their job? What happens if major systems break in the house? It can unfortunately put people at a financial disadvantage. One of the major reasons why people go into foreclosure is because they lose their job. Their employment is disrupted in one way or another. It causes them to fall more than 3 months behind in making their mortgage payments. And on that fourth month, that is when the foreclosure process begins.
What many may not realize is that the federal foreclosure moratorium ended at the end of July 2021.
And for even those that have experienced foreclosure, even though the mortgage moratorium was lifted, the federal mandate actually extended the amount of time that the people could live in the house once it was actually foreclosed on by the bank and owned by the bank. The issues that we're facing today is a lot of those people are still living in those houses. So though the banks have foreclosed on them, they're unable really to sell them because there aren't too many new home buyers that are willing to buy it and then go through the eviction process of the previous owners. And the issue is, a lot of the moratorium was offering protection on owner-occupied properties. And the fact is that there's a lot of inventory out there that was owned by small landlords, and they did not have the protection. What had happened was when the pandemic initially hit, the landlords really weren't provided the funding for specifically paying their mortgages. The government was sending out the stimulus checks and I guess expectant that the tenants would utilize that money to pay their rents, and a lot didn't.
I think in theory that made complete sense, but unfortunately there were, as you say, Todd, bad actors that were tenants that did not take that stimulus money and do the right thing and pay their landlord.
So now you may be wondering why you haven't seen more foreclosure inventory on the market. And this has been, everybody's kind of like waiting. And then we're going to talk about the top 10 states, and there are foreclosures taking place. It's not at the rate that is even at pre-pandemic levels, because a lot of people don't realize that the federal government is still propping up these, homeowners that are unable to make their mortgages that were impacted by the pandemic. Now, I'm sure there were a lot of people impacted, and we were all impacted in one way or another. But what's happened here is we keep kicking this can down the road. The pandemic hit in 2020. I'm not judging or condemning or being in any way insensitive to people's situations. So, but I do know that at one point we need to face the issue of people continually buying things that they're not prepared to pay when things get tough and that there's no emergency funds. And I think this is the big concern that I have with homeowners buying now at such high prices, higher mortgage rates, and affordability is definitely starting to show up. And I think that buyers are starting to wake up and pull back a little bit. But let's kind of go over this $9.961 billion bill that was passed. It was actually part of the American Rescue Act of 2021. And we'll take a look at this. So here we go. And guys, I put all of these links in the show notes for you that you can check them out yourself. But this American Rescue Plan was actually signed by President Biden on March 11th, 2021. And this bill barely, in my opinion, I mean, you can check it out, but it barely passed the House. Very narrow margins, 220 to 211, with one Democrat voting against it with all Republicans. And again, I mean, a lot of people are wondering, the state of our economy, and the Fed comes out and they say, Melissa, which I find amazing, they say that, consumer spending is strong and that everybody's doing well and things like that. And then I find this American Rescue Plan, and it tells me that if we need this $9.961 billion plan, it's telling me that we're really not in as good a shape as they're telling us we are.
No.
Now, as part of this plan, there is the HAF. Now, what that is the Homeowners Assistance Fund, and it's part of this American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And I also have the links here. Now, what the federal government had asked the states to do was to provide a requested amount that they would need to help the homeowners in default. This just doesn't have to do with the mortgage payments, but it also refers to other housing related expenses based on the impact still of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what you'll see, and again, all links are below, but what you'll see here on the U.S. Department of the Treasury site, part of this HAF plans is it breaks down every state and, who the recipient is, which is the state, the allocated amount, and then the plan that was requested. And if you quickly just kind of look down at these numbers, they got what they asked for, each state. And then, more importantly is, where are these funds allocated? And by the way, there are a lot of these states that are already up and running. The HAF programs are up and running. You can see the purple is the pilot program is running. And then the other states, preliminarily, they have their information up there, but they're not up and running as of yet. You can see that here, just yesterday, June 20th, North Dakota's plan is up and working. Now, you can go to your state and you can click on the link and you can see what is involved by getting funding, extra assistance here. And in fact, I did this for Maryland. So let's have a look. So when I come to Maryland's Homeowners Assistance Fund website, the first thing that you can do is check to see if you're eligible. And I want to show you all what is involved here. So the first question is the home listed on your application your primary residence? Now, guys, this is where the issue is and where the issue lies. And I think that when we get into these states that have very high foreclosure rates, I believe that what we're seeing is a lot of the people that are being foreclosed on are landlords, small businesses that basically haven't been able to make their mortgage payments and they don't qualify for these programs. So I simply selected yes. Is the primary residence located in the state of Maryland? And this is going to be true for your states. Yes. Have you experienced, and this is the key here, a material loss of income or material increase in living expenses associated with the COVID-19 pandemic? Now, if anyone has had relief from the pandemic, and I know a lot of stimulus checks went out and there was PPP funding for companies during this process, this period. These loans were forgiven for many businesses that needed the help. If they followed the guidelines and the rules, a lot of these monies were forgiven, these loans. But also, you've got to consider that the federal government stepped up and really subsidized the state unemployment. And guys, we've all had issues before where, we've seen either ourselves or our family or friends were affected by unemployment, a loss of a job. And that's one of the number one reasons, as I said, for foreclosures, home foreclosures. And, basically the state's unemployment was subsidized. They were stipend, a lot of money. I think it was $600 or $700 is what was added to, in many cases, their state portion of unemployment. But anyway, so it's asking me now, and this is today, right? This is current day. Is my financial situation COVID related? I'm going to hit yes. Are you currently 3 months behind or more on payments related to the following: mortgage, property taxes, homeowner insurance, mortgage insurance, condo HOA fees, water or sewer utilities? Again, I'm going to select yes here. And that's the 3 month that I was telling you that is critical for the foreclosure process to start. There are federal laws that protect homeowners or lenders from actually starting the foreclosure process, which is a public notification, by the way. When a home is being foreclosed on, it's public record. So, that's how we get a lot of the stats that we have, because once it goes public, it's easy to get that information. But after 3 months of not making a payment, that fourth month, mortgage foreclosure process starts. And then, have you contacted your mortgage servicer requesting assistance? And this is also key, because in a lot of the situations, they want you to have already started the process of communicating and trying to get, some kind of a workout with your mortgage processor. And back in 2008, a lot of that, when people couldn't pay their mortgages and the federal government came up with a program to allow the borrower to sell their home for less than what was owed, one of the requirements was that they needed to have contacted their mortgage servicer and kind of given them a letter stating their situation, their inability to pay, and things like that. So this is, again, part of this program. So I hit yes, and then I get a little pop-up that basically says, hey, thanks, you've passed, right? You've passed the minimal criteria to apply for assistance.
So reviewing all of this information, I don't want to sound insensitive at all, because everyone is going through something during this time. But how are we ever going to get back on track and ahead if we're constantly getting the handout of help?
Yeah, it's a major problem. And I think the biggest thing for me, Melissa, and again, and I don't want to be, come across as insensitive either, because I know that, hey, look, I mean,
times are tough.
Times are tough. And I think that at some point, we do have to be responsible for our situations. But the biggest thing, I always find, there's all this conflicting data. So, if you are behind in your mortgage payments and, you're having a tough time, but yet the federal government says that we are at all-time low unemployment. Like 40, 50-year low of unemployment. Certainly you would think that you should be able to go out and get a side hustle or a job or something of that nature. But again, bringing it back, look, we all make mistakes. And, certainly I've been affected by downturns of the economy. I've had struggles. I've survived, 2 major downturns being in business. And I know it's not fun. I know it's not easy going through that. But at the same point in time, this gets back to where we are today with, we can't keep propping ourselves up. We at some point have to come up with the decision that we're going to stop buying what we can't afford. And, at what point do, we realize that we all don't need brand new cars and we don't need these things, because it gets us in financial trouble. And the same goes for, credit cards. This is just, and you all have heard me, if you've listened to any of our videos before, you've heard me say at what point is it okay to bring on debt? And I get it. When we're talking necessities, we all need food. We all need clothing. We all need places to live and, safe roofs over our head. And, but I think that there's something to learn here. But I think the biggest thing is that I feel like we're being fed two different stories. At one point, we have the Federal Reserve coming out saying how strong our economy is and how great things are, and it's robust and we're moving forward. And then on the flip side, you see this homeowners assistance fund that is $9.6 billion, where it's telling us that we're not okay.
It's incredibly conflicting.
All right, this past Saturday, Yahoo Finance published an article, link also below, 10 states with the highest foreclosure rates. And this is all dating back from the first quarter of 22. Now, guys, a lot of the information that we are looking at, and, we know this doesn't give a complete picture of what we're facing right now because we're always backward looking on this by the time these stats come in. It's not like the stock market where you can look at the ticker and up to the second what the stock is doing. So a lot, and that's the problem with the economists too, is a lot of this stuff, they're looking back, they're waiting for the housing data to be reported. They're waiting for, the aggregating data from, Mortgage Bankers Association and National Association of Realtors, just as an example. But still, these numbers, we know these numbers are getting worse, not better. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Melissa, you want to tell us what states that are the highest in foreclosures?
Absolutely. So at number 10, we have Georgia, Michigan, Florida, Indiana, Delaware, Nevada, South Carolina, Ohio, New Jersey, and at number 1 is Illinois.
Yeah, and in Illinois, we have 1 out of 791 housing units was foreclosed in the first quarter of 22. That equates, guys, to 6,861 properties thereabouts.
Obviously, as Todd just mentioned, these are first quarter statistics, and we know that the numbers are much greater now.
So a lot of the economists are saying that despite, and this kind of gets back to, are we in another 2008? And, guys, I got to tell you, had there been a housing assistance program in place in 2008 like there is today, I think that we could all say, hey, look, if we just, create stimulus and, make all this money available for people that are struggling, I don't think we'd ever see foreclosures. I don't think we would have seen it in 08. I don't think we would have had, the issue where, we packaged up all of these defaulting loans that Fannie Mae owned and sell them off to Wall Street at a pennies on the dollar. I don't think we would have had the situation where, Wall Street owned a lot of our housing. I think we wouldn't have this situation. We would just be propping things up and continually printing money. But here's what I think the disconnect again is that I don't even think these economists know what's going on, because the economists are saying things like, we can't see another 2008, not because we're going to print money and prevent foreclosure, but we're not going to see another 2008 because there's so much equity in the houses today. And this would be true if these houses that finally get foreclosed on were in move-in ready condition. So again, these economists are disconnected in some aspect because they don't know what happens when a house goes through a foreclosure process. Number one, it starts in this case from 2 years ago. When the beginning of the pandemic, you have people, they fell into financial hardship, they lost their jobs, whatever happened. When you can't afford to pay your mortgage, you can't afford to fix things either. So I've been serving the housing industry in one aspect or another for over 30 years. And what I have seen is that when these houses get foreclosed on, there's a lot wrong with them. The deferred maintenance is extreme. A lot of times the roofs are bad. Mm-hmm. Their heating and air systems are bad and sometimes not operational. A lot of the safety issues that houses go through as things deteriorate, electrical issues, cracking concrete, water penetration, the list goes on and on. A lot of times what happens is they just give up, right? They stop paying, the homeowner stops paying, they're in a survival mode. And when these houses hit the market, there isn't much equity because the amount of repair costs that are necessary to bring them up to a retail value to where a home buyer can actually obtain a mortgage on the home or is even desirable for them. We know that there's more than 33% for the last 3 years in a row the home buyers have been millennials. 33% of the houses sold in America are from millennials. And a lot of these millennials, they don't even know, they've never even cut the grass.
Yeah.
They don't know how to cut the grass, let alone do household repairs, fix plumbing issues, things like that. So, and they're using all their cash in a lot of cases to buy the place. So they don't want the places. So how these economists are saying that all this equity is in there, Melissa, I have no idea.
I don't either. And, going back, if you're living beyond your means and you're not able to do, upkeep on your home, you also have to now see all these people that have just purchased their homes in the past, 1.5 to 2 years. They also are probably strapped, and then it's just going to lead to more foreclosures in the future.
It makes me wonder, when you have stimulus happening like it is, it makes me wonder, even when these plans are out there to help the American homeowners pay their mortgages and pay their basic household needs, it still makes me wonder how much of those home repairs are being deferred.
Yeah.
And when we look at the increase in cost, the inflation on repairs, and just to fix a heating and air system, this could be $20,000.
I know.
The other thing is, if these economists were so correct about all the equity that the people that are struggling right now, their homes are facing foreclosure, if there is so much equity, I believe that we would start to see more people capitalizing on that, selling their houses, taking their money out. And guys, don't forget, this is a big thing. You are entitled as a single person, $250,000 in profit tax-free on your primary residence, as well as a married couple, $500,000 in tax-free profits on your primary residence if you've lived there at least 2 years.
That's great information. I'm not sure a lot of people know that.
All right, guys, that wraps us up here this evening. As always, thank you for watching.
We love your comments and questions. Keep them coming. Thank you so much for your support.
And we always appreciate you subscribing to our channel. Hit that alert bell to let you know every time we upload a video. See you next time.
See you next time.